Hi, I'm Dr. Patrice Berry, and I need to tell you this story. It's a story that I think our nation needs to hear. Several years back, quite a few years back, my son was arrested. He didn't tell me about the first one. The next night, he was arrested again. He was dressed very often as he is, as a ninja. I call it his ninja outfit. And walking late at night. He didn't want to call me because he was out later than he should have been. He was in college. He didn't want me to know, and he didn't want me to know about the arrest. He was ashamed. They said there was a robbery in the area, and he fit the description. I don't know who else was walking around dressed like a ninja, but my son, who is my adopted son, who was born fetal alcohol crack addicted, who is on the spectrum, likes dressing like a ninja. He wasn't doing anything. He wasn't bothering anyone. He was arrested and thrown to the ground and taken in. He was let go on his own recognizance, and, he went on back to doing whatever. But that shame and that guilt weighed on him and stayed with him. He was riding with a friend probably a year later who had marijuana under his seat, and he was speeding. And so when the police officers pulled the two of them over, one white, one black, my son was thrown to the ground, handcuffed. They asked him whose drugs was it in the car, and my son said he didn't know. The driver said that they belonged to my son. So he was arrested. He called me to get him out, and I was full of, didn't I tell you? I told you not to be riding around with these people. I told you not to be hanging out all hours of the night. Didn't I tell you? He was arrested again and truly didn't tell me. This time because one of his roommates didn't like him or something on campus, and so they told about his samurai sword that he made himself because he loves the samurai sword. And because you're not supposed to have weapons on campus, the campus police said, well, he's got straight A's, but he can continue his school, but he can't be on campus. And then one day, a friend asked to meet him there, and he said, just meet me at the outside of campus. The friend wasn't there. My son went in, and that same friend called the police on him. And he was arrested again, and this time the charge was trespassing or with an intention or something. And because of all of these arrests that had nothing to do with nothing, the penalties kept getting larger. The charges were larger. My son was trying to pay things off without me knowing. And when I finally found out, it was as if he had murdered the Pope. We got some of the best lawyers to take care of the situation. And it was taken care of, quietly taken care of. And someone didn't see that everything was paid, or maybe that woman who was found guilty of stealing probation fines didn't record it. But he was driving one day and someone hit him, and it looked like he was driving without a license because that fine was said to have not been paid, and the thing became an even bigger thing. And even as I'm telling you this, I'm striving to not be angry again. We don't tell these stories out loud because we hold the shame of the misbehavior of others. And that day I was there when the police officer wanted to cuff him for a fine violation. And I said, don't do that. He won't be able to handle that. And he was like, well, he's going to have to. And I walked up to the man and looked him in his eyes and said, that's not necessary. See your child. And he turned to my son and said, you're not going to give me any trouble, are you? And my son said, no, sir. And he took him in, and I followed and went there. And because there was a change of shift, we had to wait longer to bond him out. And who even knows what that means? And the thing that was nothing that became this huge thing required tens of thousands of dollars to just make sure that he could walk around free. But if anything happens, folks will say he had a record. He was a criminal. Look at his rap sheet. And each one of these things that cost tens of thousands of dollars to take care of, to get rid of, explodes on the family, and we all look at him like he's the problem. Why are you out walking at night? Why were you riding with your friends? Why did you believe this kid when he said to meet you on the campus? And he's the one that turned you in the first place. And we never look at this systemic nature of nonsense, always looking at one another, and we don't talk about it because we hold somebody else's shame. I'm putting it down. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to my son. It doesn't belong to my family. It doesn't belong to my people. This shame is not my shame. But it builds up and forms a callus of hatred, of anger and resentment. Not in me, because I put those things down daily. But in others who can't hear me, who can't see, we gonna make it. We gonna get there. Because the hardening of the heart is real. And it's painful. And if you've ever had your car taken away, or your freedom taken away, or the ability to get from one place to the next taken away because of a fine that you could not pay and a mother who you could not tell, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, you've probably said things like, well, what was he doing there? Or, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Because it wouldn't happen to me. You're right. But it's happening to us. And all of us need to be responsible for changing this thing, for setting it straight, for making sure that there are no more Trayvon Martins, Philando Castiles, Breonna Taylors, Sandra Bland, too many names, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. Don't just see that one thing. that ended in a death that was so loud that you had to look. See all these little things, every little arrest that digs at the dignity, the worth, and the worthiness of all of our lives. I love you. We're going to get there. Put down the shame, the disbelief, the guilt, and the anger. And let's move into truth. I love you.